Hello and welcome to this tutorial. This is the third part of my VR multiplayer tutorial series. I have to apologize for the prior two parts because some of you might have noticed, some of you even contacted me on Discord, you weren't able to build the project, even though I said you would be able to. That's because I forgot I already did something you have to do as well. We are going to do this in this tutorial, and also there may have been some issues with finding Steam sessions. That's because the find session functionality is locked for the 480 dev ID we are using in this tutorial, which is why we are going to fix that as well by creating this cool lobby menu where you can create your own lobby, have displayed who's in the lobby. That's my Steam profile picture, and you also have your whole friend list over here where you can even invite people over the invite button. As you can see here, I invited him to play Space War, and if he is in the same game and clicks join, he will also be transferred into this lobby, and if you're the host you can then start the game. So it's a way better system than the system we had in the last episode, and we're going to get right into how to fix the bug and implement the game instance. To be able to follow this tutorial, I would heavily recommend to watch the first two parts because we are working in the project created in these two parts. This build error is occurring because some of the VRE files are missing, and these are needed to build the project, which is why we will have to go back into the VR expansion plugin example and open it. Once this is opened, you can just take the whole VRE folder, use the migrate button here, and then just migrate everything into your project. For me it's a copy of VR multiplayer tutorial. Choose the content folder and select, and for me some of them are still in. For you probably as well. You can just apply to all and hit yes. Once that is finished, you can close this project again. You don't have to save. And now you will have the whole VRE folder in here. You can now try building, but most likely you will still receive an error. And that's because by migrating, only the blueprint classes will be migrated to the new project, but the C++ classes, which the VR expansion plugin is made in, will not be migrated with, especially the default engine ini we looked at in the last episode, and we have to move the config from the VR expansion plugin example into our own project for everything to work, because there are some references which will not be migrated over, so we have to do that manually. To do that, just open both config folders, the one of your own project, it will probably look something like that, and the one of the VR expansion plugin example. And first you can take the gameplay tags, just copy them by hitting Ctrl C and pasting them into here. You can also take the input mapping and open both of them. On the right side we now have the expansion one, and on the left side our own. And we can already see that this one is quite long. So we just take it and paste it in here. We can save that. And lastly, we also have to copy the default engine. Just take everything from here, go down to the Steam part we have added in the last episode, and copy everything from up here and paste the other default engine in here. Save again. That will change some settings in your project as well, but we will fix that in a second. And now we can restart this project. Simply close it and open it again. As you can see, the game will now start up in the motion controller map. Let's just fix that real quick. We can do that by going into the project settings. Type in map. And for the startup map, I would recommend to use the gameplay. Game default map is the main menu because you want to start in the main menu, and the server default map is level gameplay. I would also recommend going into packaging while you're at it, going into advanced, and list of maps to include into the package build, level gameplay, and level main menu, just so they will be built with. And then you can go back into your own scene, save, and now you can try to package again. And yes, as you can see, the packaging is now complete, and we can go into the folder where you have built it. For me, it's the copy build. Over here you have the Windows folder and the exe of the game, and we can try to open it. And as you can see, it works. Now the main menu is here. I obviously have no VR pawn connected, but Steam is already is also connected. Which is awesome. So the build is now working, and we can now optimize the session finding for Steam. And to do that, we are going to create a folder for Steam right here and can create a game instance. Because in the last episode I have not done that, but it's pretty important. I would recommend to choose the VR game instance and just call it GI game instance. And we have to assign that in the project settings. VR game instance, now GI game instance, perfect. And we have to fill that one with some functions. And I would just start by creating an event, oh, not that one. A custom event for creating sessions. We can then access from other blueprints, and to create a session we have to first get the player controller and then create advanced session like that. I would just public connections to 4. Wait. Like that. I don't know why the word context was there. The player controller has obviously to be plugged into player controller. And then is no dedicated server. Your lobbies should advertise, should start after create. That's alright. Okay, perfect. And when that's successful, we want to open a level by name, and we want to open level lobby. Don't worry, you will probably have no level called lobby by now, but we will create that in a second. And the option has to be listen. That just makes sure that if someone is now joining into the lobby, he will actually load into the lobby level and not just stay in the main menu. And that's important because the main menu is technically standalone, and all the Steam functionalities with inviting, joining to each other will not really work if you don't have a map which is in the listen server mode. And yeah, that's basically the create session function. We will add some things later, but only once they are ready. And so the actual game can be started. We can create a custom event called start game, because currently we are only in the lobby, and if players join we will go into the lobby. But later in the lobby I will make a start game button, and that's how you will then start the actual game. Get player controller again, and then... oh no, that was wrong, sorry. Just server travel, because start game will only be called from the server, and the URL will then be level underscore gameplay, and again question mark listen, so everyone will follow. Awesome. Start game function. Perfect. And we also need something to end the game while we're at it. End session, and then destroy session. And now we have to get the player controller. Like that, plug it into here, connect these two. And while ending the session, we always want to end up in the main menu again, which is why we will then open level by name. and level underscore main menu on success. So we are loading back into the menu when the game is ended. End session. Perfect. Okay, so now that we can create the session, start the game and end the session, we still need something to join the session. So let's just create that real quick. And for join session, we then need the join session node. The player controller will be of index 0 again, because it's the player controller's game instance. And the session to join, we will just plug it into the inputs and rename it session to join. That just makes sure that if we call it, we can just give this event the session to join, and it will join, and we don't have to get it in here again. So that works as well. Join session. And that should work. Let's also create some error handling. We can just do that and then end session. That just make... Oh, that was wrong. End session. Our own function here. End event on network. Work error. Like that. And we can end the session there as well. That just makes sure that when the game crashes or the host closes the session, that you will still be traveled over to the main menu and you're not just stuck in the gameplay level. Perfect. Let's save that. And now, because in the dev ID the find session button does not really work as said in the intro, which is why I have a little workaround for the dev ID, which is not really a workaround. Basically it's just a whole lobby system. But for a lobby system, we need the friend list, because we're in VR and the Steam overlay is not really accessible in this in VR, which is why we will do some invite logic. And for that, we can just take the on session invite accepted. That just means when you are accepting the invite from Steam, we can promote that to a variable. And yeah, call it session to join. After that, I recommend a delay for 0.2 seconds. That just makes sure that Steam and Unreal Engine can actually communicate, because Steam tends to be a little bit faster than, slower than Unreal Engine. And this event might get triggered too early to join the session, because not all the variables are set. And the delay makes sure that that does not happen, because it might happen and it's pretty annoying. And after that we can use our join session, get the player controller again. Never mind, it's already over there. And then we can plug that into here, because it's the session to join. Steam gets that by inviting, and we can get it from this event, which is pretty nice. So we can just, when the invite is accepted, we get the session to join, save it as a variable, and then join the session, which is nice. And then I would also actually, for easier debugging, recommend to print a string here. Success joining and Control V, failed joining, just so we have a little debug to work with. Perfect. Okay, and we also need a function for sending invites, because we will also do that through our in-game UI and not through Steam. And for that we will create a custom event, send invite, and get the player controller again. And we can send invite to friend, the player controller over here, and the unique net ID will be a parameter for the event friend to invite, like that. Plug it into here and print string again. Invite a friend. Failed inviting, like that on failure. Perfect. Okay, let's just comment that. Send invite and comment that. And invites, just to keep it structured. Perfect. And now we can do, because to invite your friends, you will obviously need some access to a friend list. And that will be the functions which we'll be writing now. So we will start with the friend list, just custom event and update friend list. And we can get our Steam friend list by getting the player controller first, and then using the get and store friends list from the advanced session plugin. Why is it always saying word context object? Get and store friends players. You don't want to have that word context object thing. You want the player controller and only the player controller. And you can write a debug here, or just do it. Updating friends list, like that. And the results we want to, or do we? No, we actually don't want that. We are just going to create a for each loop. Just give me a second here. And on success, we will trigger that. And for the array element, we will break friend info. Because in here, I'm not going to do this in this tutorial, but you have these outputs, especially is playing same game, and you can, yeah, based on that, choose if you even want to have these people in your friends list displayed in the game, because you probably only want to have the people displayed which are in the same game and not all of your friends. Then we can take the array elements and actually promote it to a variable real quick, and then call it friends list, and go over here and select an array. So we actually have an array, and then it will refactor. It's happening on my second monitor right now, don't be confused. And it's done. And we can then delete that again and get it and type add, so we can just add it to our friend list. And that's what basically happens in the yeah, in the friends list. So we just get and store the friends list, make for each loop. Here would be the place to have like branches. Maybe you could do that. And if it's playing the same game you want to add, and if not, you don't want to add him. But as said, with the dev ID, that will make some problems, which is why we just stick to this. And once that is done, we want an event dispatcher the later the UI can subscribe to, because when the friend list is updated, we want the UI to be updated as well. Which is why we will create an event dispatcher on friends list updated. And we can call that once this is completed. That looks about right, but I would recommend a print string here again. Fails getting friends list. And over here we can print a string. Success updating friends list, like that. Okay, that now looks about right. Okay, so we can comment that out again. Update friends list and place it here. Okay, perfect. And we also need a player list. The player lists are the people which are in game with you right now. So update player list. We can create something. Oh, I actually forgot something here. We have to clear this every time we repopulate it, so the old friends which are still online don't get added twice. That's why we have to clear it first. And for the player list, I want to get the game state, because the game state has a player array, which is an array of every player state on the game state, so every player basically. And we then can do a for each loop again. And in the loop body, we want to get the unique net ID from the player state. This is just, yeah, the Steam networking ID. And we can promote that to a variable again, players list, and just the same thing again. I'll just delete it here real quick and then click player list and change the type to an array. And I can now get that, hit add again. It's basically the exact same thing as for the friends list. And that looks about right. We obviously first have to clear that one as well. So we will put that into here. And we will make another event dispatcher on players list updated. And we'll call that one as well. Like that. And that looks right. Yeah. We can just print string as always for easier debugging. Updated players. Yeah. And hit compile, save. Oh no, just comment it out to keep it structured. Like that. Perfect. Okay, and for now we could just subscribe to some events or call these functions in the game mode, where we have some events called like on post login, which will be called every time a new player logs in. But for the sake of this tutorial, we will just add some timers that these functions will be called once in a while. So the player list and the friends list will just be updated. And we can do that by calling the event init, so basically begin play, but for game instances. And then set timer by event. And I would just like, I don't know, 3 seconds. Max once per frame, looping, initial start delay, we don't need that. And then we can just plug the event into here, copy paste, and plug the other event into here. So now for the main menu and gameplay we already have a level, but for the lobby menu we don't have a level. So we're just going to copy the main menu and call it lobby, save, open it up, and we can go back into core. There we have the menu. We can copy and paste that, GM lobby. And we can also create a player controller for the lobby. Save that, and then in the lobby we use the lobby game mode, which we will edit to have the player controller of lobby. And the BP menu pawn, that's alright. So we're going to save it and use it over here. Awesome. And another thing we will be doing currently, we have in the player controller, we have that one. That one has to be disabled so the camera actually works. That's very important. So PC menu, we got that disabled. We will have to just disconnect those two over here, because the menu pawn will be spawned even if that does not happen if this is never triggered. We just need the HMD enabled boolean, and we need it in the level blueprint. You can open that by being in the level and then pressing open level blueprint. And there we have to go into the begin play, get player controller, and then is local controller. That's important, so that does not run on the server. And then we can get a branch, put it in there, and if that's true, I would delay so everything has the chance to be loaded correctly. And we can then just take it. We're currently in the lobby, so we want to cast to PC_lobby, and just like that. And as lobby, we can get HMD enabled now. And if that is on false, if there is no HMD, we will be going to create widgets and take the... We currently don't have the lobby widget. We're going to fill in the second. Actually, we will be creating the lobby widget real quick. Just go into UI. We got the sessions thing. We are going to rename that to main menu. Copy paste and that to lobby menu. We will be editing these in the next part, but for now it's enough that they exist. And now we can use the lobby menu over here. The owning player is obviously the player controller, and we want to add to viewport just like that. And we also want to show mouse cursor just so we can actually use the widget show mouse cursor. Perfect. And while we're at it, we can actually just copy that one by pressing Ctrl+C a bunch of times. Go back into the scenes, open up the main menu, go open up the level blueprint, hit Ctrl+V, and now we have to not cast to the lobby controller, we have to cast to the menu controller. We can switch that out, we can put that into here. We have to get HMD enabled, we have to plug that into here. The owning player is now the lobby controller, and the cursor of the lobby controller should be shown, so we can delete these two, put it up here, and perfect. And now in the menu controller we don't need anything here, so you can just disconnect it and make sure on camera is also disconnected. And if we go back into core menu, we have the lobby controller here as well, and we have to disconnect these two here as well, and him obviously as well. And that basically just makes sure that our debugging modes or our emulator works the right way, because now if we start in a standalone, I forgot to choose the right player controller, which is why this cast will fail and this won't happen. So we will have to do that real quick. In the menu game mode, we need to select the right player controller, otherwise it will obviously not work. Okay, I made another mistake. We actually have to do that on false, because if the HMD is enabled, we don't want to do that. And if the HMD is not enabled, we want to do that. So now it should work. Yeah, thank God. Okay, so now the widget will actually be added to the viewport if you don't have HMD, so a VR headset attached. And if we now check the lobby scene and open the blueprint in here, I'm not sure if I have made the same mistake here. I obviously have. It should be on false over here. Just make sure it's on false and it will work. So now with that done, we basically have finished everything we need under the hood. In the next episode, I will take care of the UI. But the next episode will come out in 1 week, and if you want to continue to work from now on, I will show you real quick what's the base concept on how to do that. First of all, you would have to select the right widget in each level. For the lobby, it's for the main menu, it's not the lobby. For the main menu, it's the main menu, who would have guessed. And now if you want to connect the game instance functionality to one of your widgets, for example, the main menu, you could simply do it in the button function of create session. You now have to get the game instance, and you can then cast to GI, not the asset registry, cast to GI game instance, because that's the one we created. Convert to pure cast, and then not cast to create session, because that's the function for creating sessions we have defined in the game instance. And if we save now and start the game in the main menu, let it load up real quick, and once it's loaded up, we are now in the main menu, and if we click create session, he created a session, and it's now the lobby menu. I've added a little test text so we can actually know which one is which. And the session is now created. That's basically how you would do it. You would obviously have to edit the widgets in the way you need it. But as said, next week I will make a complete tutorial on how to create the friends list UI, the lobby member UI, the invite buttons, etc, etc. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe the channel, and maybe even leave a like if this tutorial was helpful. It would help me out a lot. And have a nice day.